"This outage is on you." Boss didn't bother lowering his voice. He didn't check who was nearby. He stood at the center of the floor, hands in his pockets, and said it clearly enough that every keyboard stopped clicking. 40 people looked up at once. I glanced at the clock on the wall behind him, 9 minutes before the investor call. "You had one job," he continued, already pacing, already performing. "Keep the system stable, and you failed." He said it like the conclusion of a meeting, not the start of a conversation. No questions, no pause, no chance to respond. I didn't argue. That was the first thing that unsettled the room. Most people would have panicked, pulled up logs, blamed the upstream provider, asked for 5 minutes, begged for a chance to fix it. I closed my laptop instead. The click was soft, but in the sudden quiet, it sounded loud. Someone near the window shifted in their chair. Someone else pretended to scroll. Mark noticed my silence and smiled, the way people do when they think they've been proven right. He nodded once, satisfied. "HR will send you the paperwork," he said. "Clear your desk. Then, like an afterthought, we'll handle the rest." I stood up slowly. My badge brushed against the edge of the desk as I turned. I could feel eyes following me across the room. Some curious, some relieved it wasn't them. No one said my name. I walked back to my desk and packed exactly 3 things. My notebook. Charger. The small framed photo I kept behind my monitor, that was it. Behind me, the glass conference room door opened. Executives started filing in. Dark suits, tablets under their arms, people who talked about stability like it was a personality trait. Mark straightened his jacket and lowered his voice, but not enough. "Don't worry," he said. "We're stable now." I didn't look back. The elevator doors slid shut with a soft chime. Inside, my reflection stared back at me. Neutral face. Level shoulders, breathing steady. Not angry, not embarrassed, just quiet. When the doors opened onto the lobby, my phone buzzed for the first time, an email from HR. Subject line, termination notice. Before I could finish reading it, another notification replaced it. Slack access revoked. Then email access gone. Clean, efficient. They moved fast when they thought they were right. Outside, the city didn't react at all. Cars rolled past. Someone laughed on a phone call. A barista wiped down a table. I stepped onto the sidewalk and let the building doors slide closed behind me. That's when my phone buzzed again. This one wasn't HR, it was an automated alert. Latency spike detected. I didn't open it yet. I walked 2 blocks and sat on a bench across the street facing the building. From there, I could see the 12th floor conference room. The lights were on. Shapes moved behind the glass. 9 minutes had passed. The investor call should have started. Inside the building, the conference room lights flickered once, then steadied. Probably nothing, I imagined Mark saying. My phone vibrated again. Authentication timeout. Retry pending. I still didn't open the alerts. People assume silence means shock, or fear, or surrender. Sometimes it just means restraint. Across the street, someone inside the conference room stood up. Another person leaned forward, hands on the table. A third stepped out into the hallway with a phone pressed to their ear. I remembered Mark's voice. Calm, certain. We'll handle the rest. He believed that, because in his mind I was an employee, a support role, a cost center that had just failed him at the worst possible moment. What he didn't understand was that the systems he bragged about to investors weren't just tools I maintained. They were services I controlled, not emotionally, not impulsively, contractually, but none of that mattered yet. My phone buzzed again. Cooling subsystem unresponsive. That one made me smile just for a second. Across the street, a window opened. Someone waved their hand, trying to pull air inside. Another person exited the conference room and didn't come back in. I stood up from the bench. I wasn't done watching. I just didn't need to be that close. I started walking toward a cafe with good Wi-Fi and no questions. Behind me, Mark Sullivan was still speaking with confidence, still telling investors everything was under control. And for the moment, it almost looked like he was right. By the time my coffee reached the table, my phone had gone quiet. That bothered me more than the alerts. Silence in a live system never meant peace. It meant someone somewhere was trying very hard not to panic. I opened my laptop, connected to the cafe Wi-Fi, and did nothing else. No VPN yet, no dashboards, just watched the building across the street through the window. The conference room lights were still on, but the energy had changed. People weren't sitting anymore. They were standing, leaning, pointing at screens that weren't doing what screens were supposed to do. I checked the time. The investor call should have been 10 minutes in. I took a slow sip of coffee and finally opened the alerts. Nothing catastrophic. That was the point. Authentication retries stacking instead of clearing. Failover lag increasing by seconds then minutes. Environmental controls responding, eventually. each issue small enough to explain away. Together, impossible to ignore, my phone buzzed, a message from a former teammate. "Did you change anything?" I stared at it for a moment. Then I set the phone face down and didn't reply. Another message came in. "Keycards on 12 aren't working. People are stuck outside the conference room." Still nothing from me. Doing nothing takes discipline. Most people crack when they think silence means guilt. Across the street, the conference room door opened and a man in a dark suit stepped out, phone already pressed to his ear. He paced once, twice, then stopped pacing entirely, shoulders tight. Someone important had arrived late. A black SUV pulled up to the curb, doors opened. A woman stepped out, already irritated. She walked fast. Inside, Mark Sullivan straightened his posture and smiled too widely. I recognized that version of him. He used it when he didn't understand something but needed other people to believe he did. The temperature upstairs was rising now, not dangerously, just enough to make people uncomfortable. Jackets came off, sleeves rolled up. Authority doesn't like sweating. My inbox refreshed. An email appeared, forwarded by mistake. From legal department to Emily Carter subject. Clarification of service status. Seeing my name there felt oddly grounding. They knew, they just didn't know what to say yet. I closed the email without opening it. My phone buzzed again. Conference room B screens frozen, switched to backup, same issue. Backup systems only worked when they trusted the primary. Trust was already eroding. I thought about replying, about explaining, about saving them the embarrassment of realizing this in front of investors. Then I remembered Mark's voice. Casual, cert. "We'll handle the rest." So I let them. Across the street, someone opened a window wide. Another person fanned papers uselessly. The body language had shifted from confusion to irritation. I checked the time again, 30 minutes. Investor patience runs on a short clock. Another call came in. Unknown number. I let it ring. It rang again, then stopped. Moments later, my phone vibrated with a voicemail notification. I didn't listen yet. The building's lobby doors opened and a cluster of employees spilled out. Not fired, not escorted, sent home. Just for today. Laptops tucked under arms, forced smiles. No one quite sure what to say. I finally opened the legal email. Carefully worded, polite. Vague, they wanted to discuss a temporary extension of my services. Temporary, as if this were a favor I owed them. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened another tab, a different email thread, months old. Subject, infrastructure consultation inquiry. A competitor. One I'd spoken to briefly a long time ago. They'd been respectful, prepared. Curious in the right ways. If anything ever changes, they'd written, "We'd love to talk." I scheduled a call for later that afternoon. No rush, my phone rang again. This time I answered. "Where are you?" Mark asked. No greeting, just tension. "I'm no longer with the company," I said. "We're seeing inconsistencies," he replied carefully. "We need you to clarify a few things." "I'm not authorized to access internal systems anymore," I said. "HR made that clear." "That's not what I meant," he snapped, then lowered his voice. "You know what I mean." I stayed quiet. "Did you change anything?" he asked. "No," I said. "I stopped." The line went dead. Across the street, the conference room lights flickered again. This time, they stayed dim a little longer. Something was coming. They just didn't know what yet. I walked 3 more blocks and found a quiet co-working space. Neutral ground, no history, no one curious about who I was. I set up my laptop, encrypted and authenticated. Clean. The dashboards filled the screen. System health sat in yellow, not red, not failed, just slow, obedient drift. Every service still running but carefully unoptimized. Mini hook, the most dangerous failures obey the rules. I scrolled through the contract again, not because I needed to, but because patience sharpens memory. Clause 14, termination of engagement. Upon severance, all non-essential services revert to baseline access within 24 hours. Baseline didn't mean shutdown. It meant no manual fixes, no optimizations, no human intervention, just rules executed perfectly. I hadn't pulled a single plug. I had simply stepped away. My phone buzzed. Unknown number, I answered. "Hello?" A pause. Then Mark Sullivan's voice, tight, controlled. "Where are you?" "I'm no longer with the company," I said. "We're seeing inconsistencies. We need you to clarify a few things." "I'm not authorized to access internal systems anymore," I replied. Another pause. "You set this up, you know how it works." "Yes," I said, "I do." Mini hook, the moment someone changes tone, they've already lost ground. He asked the wrong question. "Did you change anything?" I smiled, quietly, inevitably. "No," I stopped. He hung up. Across the city, systems continued their obedient drift. Temperature control lagged by minutes. Badge retries stacked into queues. Network traffic obeyed only the bare minimum. Machines didn't panic, people did. An hour later, a short email arrived. Not from Mark, from legal, we'd like to discuss a temporary extension of your services. Temporary, already framing it like a favor. I didn't respond. I opened another tab, a competitor, Northway Systems. Claire Donovan, their CTO, had reached out months earlier, quietly, politely. Now I scheduled a call. We spoke 20 minutes. Efficient, professional, she didn't ask why, smart people never do. We ended the call, everything verified, no downtime, systems clean, compliant, ready. Flashback came uninvited 6 months earlier, same office. Mark pacing, whiteboard full of numbers. Can we scale this faster? He asked. Yes, I said, but we'll need redundancy. He waved it off. Investors want growth, we'll harden later. I had nodded, and hardened it anyway. Mini hook preparation always looks like overkill until it's all that's left. My phone buzzed, 17 missed calls, 3 voicemails. The last one was different, not anger, panic. Please, Mark said, just call me back. I didn't. Outside, dusk settled. Lights flickered across the city, including on the 12th floor, then off again, just for a second, enough to notice, and I packed up slowly. Tomorrow, everything would still be running, but not for them, and not for long. Identity flip line, placement here for retention spike. To them, I was it. In reality, I was the infrastructure. The next morning, my phone didn't wake me. The silence did. No alerts, no frantic messages, no automated warnings. That kind of quiet only happens when systems stop trying to correct themselves. I checked the time. 8:42 a.m., they would have been in the office for almost an hour. I opened my laptop. The dashboards told the story before anyone could. Environmental controls locked in safe mode. Network routing frozen mid-optimization. Keycard authentication queues had exceeded tolerance. Still no red lights, still no failure, just paralysis. Mini hook, the worst collapses don't explode, they stall. I turned on the news not for headlines but to look for patterns. Nothing yet, too early. My phone rang again, same number. Please, Mark Sullivan said immediately. No greeting, no authority left. We need you back, name your price. I pictured the office, sweaty, phones ringing, executives whispering instead of speaking. I don't work there anymore, I said. We'll reverse it, he said. HR can? You fired me publicly, I interrupted. My voice stayed calm. In front of your team and your investors. Silence. Mini hook, public humiliation demands public consequences. We made a mistake, he said finally. Yes, I agreed. I heard voices behind him now, legal, facilities, someone from compliance. He covered the phone, I waited. When he came back, his voice was different, controlled, measured. Our building access is compromised, he said. This affects safety. I leaned back. No, your access to my systems has ended, that's all. You're saying this is intentional? I chose my words carefully. I'm saying this is contractual. Another voice cut in. Ask him who owns the infrastructure. He didn't ask, he already knew. Mini hook, truth spreads fastest when everyone realizes it at once. An hour later, the first email leaked. Internal, forwarded, unintended. We no longer have administrative authority over core building and network services. That sentence moved faster than any system ever could. By noon, the office was half empty, not evacuated, dismissed. People sent home just for today. Laptops under arms, confused looks. Investors didn't leave. They gathered behind closed doors. That's when the competitor made their move. Not loudly, not publicly. Just a quiet announcement on their site, now supporting high-availability enterprise infrastructure for fast-scaling teams. No names mentioned, but the timing was perfect. Mini hook, the replacement always arrives before the apology. At 2:17 p.m., Mark showed up in person. I hadn't told him where I was, but desperation makes people resourceful. He stood across from me in the cafe, jacket wrinkled, eyes red. I need you to fix this, he said. I didn't offer him a chair. There's nothing to fix, I replied. Everything is working as designed. He swallowed. We're bleeding money every hour. I nodded. I know. He lowered his voice. What do you want? I met his eyes. Nothing. That scared him more than any number could. Mini hook, when someone wants nothing, you can't negotiate. His phone buzzed. He checked it. Then again. Then again. He stepped away to answer. I watched his posture collapse with every sentence. When he came back, his face had gone pale. They locked us out, he said quietly. Who? The landlord, he replied. They said the building systems were transferred. I finished my coffee. That happens when service agreements change. He stared at me. You evicted us. I stood up. No, I corrected him. You fired me. Outside, sirens wailed not for them but close enough to feel personal. The cafe door swung open and closed behind him as he rushed out, phone pressed to his ear again, chasing fixes that no longer belonged to him. I sat back down, checked my email. One new message, termination acknowledged. Services concluded. No emotion, no malice, just an ending, but not the final one. By the end of the week, the building was empty, not abandoned, not condemned, just unavailable. The startup's logo still hung on the door, but the lights stayed off. Access badges didn't work. Elevators skipped their floor. Even the security desk had been reassigned. Mini Hook, when power disappears quietly, people pretend it was planned. The story didn't break the way scandals usually do. No headlines screaming fraud or sabotage. No viral outrage, just a short press release. Operations paused pending infrastructure transition. Investors read between the lines, they always do. Two pulled funding within days. One demanded a full audit. Another quietly backed out, citing risk alignment. Mark Sullivan stopped calling, then texting. The last message I received from him came a week later. It wasn't an apology. It was a question. How did I miss this? I didn't answer. Some lessons lose power when explained. Mini Hook, paper remembers what people choose to forget. The competitor onboarded their new client in under 48 hours, not the old startup. Their customers, clean transfer, no downtime. People followed stability. They always do. I watched it all from a distance, not celebrating, not gloating. Just observing the natural order reassert itself. Weeks later, I ran into a former coworker at a grocery store. We stood in the aisle too long, pretending to compare labels. They blamed you at first, he said quietly. Said you sabotaged everything. I nodded. And then, he hesitated. Then legal read the contracts. That was enough. Months later, I passed the old building. New tenants, different logo, fresh paint. The city had already moved on. Only one thing remained unchanged. The lesson: you can fire a person, you can humiliate them, blame them, erase their name from Slack, but you should never confuse access with ownership. And you should never mistake calm for compliance. Mini Hook, the quietest person in the room, isn't powerless. They're just waiting for the contract to end. 9 minutes before that investor call, Mark Sullivan said the outage was on me. He was right. He just didn't understand what me meant. I turned the corner, shoulders straight, breathing steady. Systems running, contracts honored, power returned quietly, and that was enough.